Hi guys, I'm going to talk about energy traveling through the... So the first or the start of energy through the biosphere occurs with autotrophs. These are also called producers. They are organisms that can make their own food. And the two common producers are plants and bacteria. As you learned in the previous chapter, plants can do this through a process called photosynthesis with the aid of sunlight. They transfer carbon dioxide and water and make glucose and oxygen. Bacteria do a similar process, except it occurs without any sunlight at all. It's more like a process of chemicals, and it's called chemosynthesis. Here's a diagram to better understand that process. Bacteria found in deep oceans or in the abyss of the ocean are surrounded by heat from the hydrothermal vents or the volcanic eruptions that occur in the deep ocean. They take carbon dioxide and water and they use hydrogen sulfide and convert it into glucose and a sulfur compound. This is all done with the force of heat energy from the hydrothermal vents. Then you have heterotrophs, which are consumers. These are organisms that cannot make their own food. The first consumers are called primary consumers. They are the organisms that eat plants. Herb for plant. Secondary or third level or fourth level consumers all are meat eaters, which are called carnivores. Omnivores are organisms that eat both. Think of this term as more like a vocabulary term. If I reference an organism feeding off a plant, you're going to give me the answer of herbivore. If I reference an organism eating meat, it's a carnivore. If I ask what type of organisms eat both, then you would pick omnivore. Decomposers are unique consumers because they are consumers who break down what they feed and return back into the cycle. So they'll break down organic waste as carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and return it back into the cycle. And examples of decomposers are bacteria or fungi. They can be herbivores, carnivores, or omnivores because they feed off plants that have died or remains of organisms. Scavengers are a type of consumer that feed off remains of organisms. They actually wait for an organism to be in its decomposing state to feed off of it, but they do not return any nutrients to the soil. Detrovores or detritus feeders are like decomposers because they feed off remains and return the remains to the soil like decomposers, or back to the cycle, I should say. I say soil because most decomposers are found in the bottom, like soil or bottom of the ocean. They're considered bottom dwellers. So they really don't feed off full decomposing waste. They feed more off particles or, organic matter that trickles down to the bottom. In a food chain, basically, you've always considered to be like a series of feeding relationships, but really what's happening is energy being transferred from one organism to another. Energy starts on Earth with the sun, it hits the producer, and the producer transfers the energy. This is why the arrows face in the direction of the transfer of energy to the primary consumers and then to the secondary consumers and so on. On Earth, it's very hard to find like a perfect linear chain because in reality, organisms feed off each other. This is an example of a food web, which is basically a network of food chains. It's rare to find one organism feeding on grass only or a type of producer. They feed off many. This is an energy pyramid, and the shape basically describes more energy is in the bottom. So wherever the producers are, they have more energy. As you go up the pyramid, you lose energy. Also, there's more producers on Earth than there are third level consumers. So the shape has double meaning. Here's a description of what happens when energy is transferred from one organism to another. As stated in the second part of the law of energy, every time energy is transferred, heat is lost in the process. 90% of it is actually the loss. Only 10% gets passed from one organism to another. So here you have your energy pyramid, and let's ignore this bottom part, and let's just start with what starts the pyramid, which is primary producers or producers, such as plants or chemosynthetic bacteria. If a producer in the bottom of the pyramid has 10,000 joules of energy, a primary consumer or an herbivore will only get 10% of that, which is 1,000. 90% will be lost to Earth as heat. Primary consumers are called herbivores, so they go in the second level. Secondary consumers go in the third level, and these would be our first level carnivores. Tertiary consumers or third level consumers are second level carnivores. And if you notice what's happening, we went from 10,000 to 1,000 to 100 to 10. If I went one more level, it would be 1 joule. If I went a level past that, it would be 0.1.